All right, 5 more great albums. Non-metal, heavy, underground music. We'll leave it at that. So the first band I want to talk about is Red Sparrows. Red Sparrows are a post-rock band from LA and definitely a supergroup of sorts. You had members of the VSS, Made Out of Babies, Josh from A Storm of Light, who also did visuals for Neurosis way back in the day, and probably most famously Brian and Jeff from ISIS, and Emma Ruth Rundle, who's from a band called Marriages and has a solo project right now that's pretty popular. I saw Marriages live one time opening for Russian Circles. I thought they put on a good show, and the release they put out around that time I thought was pretty solid. And Red Sparrows I saw live one time at the Garrison in Toronto, a pretty small place, but that place was packed and top 10 all-time show for me. Amazing. But how to describe Red Sparrows if I had to... I can make it pretty simple, actually. I would say explosions in the sky, but faster and heavier. So this is the first full length at the Soundless Dawn. Came out in 2007, or no, I think 2005, sorry, on Neurot. And I got this release from Robotic Empire. I guess they had a whole bunch of copies that were water damaged, so the sleeves were garbage, but they still sold the vinyl for a steal, so I got that. And this album got a lot of praise in the magazines, high on a lot of critics' rankings for 2005. But I think the next album was a big step up. Every red heart shines toward the red sun in 2007. Again, long songs, instrumental, post-rock, but this is a concept album about communist China, the Great Leap Forward, and the famine and tragedy that surrounded that. The third album was another step towards accessibility, and that was a great one too. But I sold my copy of the vinyl, which I bought when I saw them live. And I guess my story from that is I sold it to my local vinyl store, who usually don't have much to say about metal releases. But that one, they say they gave a spin at the shop and the employees really dug it, and some older customer heard it and said, "What is that? Let me have it," and bought it right there. So that's where I hope your vinyl, when you sell it, ends up, right, with someone that appreciates it. Next up, Buildings. You Are Not One of Us. This is an American band from Minneapolis, and this is their third album. Not too fond of this album cover, but it's put out on Gilead Media, and it's a solid mix of noise rock and post-hardcore. Haven't looked at this record in a while. It's a black and white Sunburst. Pretty cool. Next up, we have a collaboration album. This is by Thou and the Body. You Whom I Have Always Hated. Isn't that nice? But yes, this is a collaboration album. Very weird, unpleasant. Not the kind of thing I'm going to listen to for a pleasure, more of a interesting experiment. But I love these guys. I've seen Thou one time, and I keep up with their releases. And The Body, who I've probably seen 3 times live. I always enjoyed them live. But both those bands actually have quite a few collaboration projects they've done, and here they did this one together. Finally, Lingua Ignota, All Bitches Die. Didn't really know how to describe this. I took a look on Wikipedia to see what it said. It said neoclassical dark wave. Maybe, but it's very extreme and disturbing without being heavy. Predominantly vocals, piano, and electronics. But it's interesting, the the crazy music us metal fans can listen to, but then there's things like this that I definitely would not want to listen to in a dark room or going to bed or anything. And I would say that applies even more so to the next two releases after this, which has seen an increased profile and probably a more extreme sound even. And I just found my CDR of Caligula, the album that comes after that one. And the interesting story about that is, when you go to your local library and you see a nice display case of a couple new books, a couple new DVDs, and maybe a CD or two, usually pretty mainstream, accessible stuff, and they had a copy of Caligula, that album, which I thought was really cool, so I loaned that one out and ripped a copy. Maybe it's because it was on Profound Lore, a Canadian label. Living in Canada, it's one of those things, like if you go to the library, you'll probably be fortunate enough to get all the Cronenberg movies, because they're all very Canadian movies. So, that's it. Those were 5 great albums, and lots more to come. Thanks.